Welcome to the next edition of Formula Chat. It's been really popular recently, these close-up looks at some really significant racing cars. So today I'm going to be looking at the fabulous Williams FW14B. If you're enjoying the content and you're liking all this, grab us a like, grab a subscribe, and also please ask any questions. I know people have been enjoying these close-up looks at the cars. So let's check out the Williams FW14B from 1992. So here it is, the absolutely, and I use that word a lot, I know, iconic Williams FW14B, a car that, when magazines and websites run polls of the best F1 cars ever, this is generally always a top 5 car for a couple of very good reasons. Firstly, if it's in the UK that you're watching this from, Nigel Mansell is probably a driver that you'll have heard of. The British world champion won only one world championship, and it was with this car. He probably should have won more. He always carried this red 5 on the car. It really stood out. Riccardo Patrese ran in number 6 there as his teammate and always wore a white number on the car, but this one carries the red 5 of Nigel Mansell. A couple of things that were significant about this car. First of all, the suspension it was very famous for. You can see the suspension, first of all, sits here. We've got the wishbones, a little bit different to our current Formula 1 cars, not made of carbon fibre. It's metal, and you can hear that there, but also where the push rod goes in here, you've got these bulges just outside of the leading edge as we head down towards the nose cone there. And that hides the real tech secrets of this car, the active suspension. And what this car used to do is move up and down on its own. There's various bits of footage you can see from the back in the day with these cars moving up and down on their own. And what that enabled the car to do was be at the optimum ride height during a lap. And that made the car set up even better, and it made it a really, really ultra competitive car. It won 9 races in the hands of Nigel Mansell, and Riccardo Patrese won a couple more races that year as well. There were only 16 in a season then, 16 races, not the 24 that we're about to have in 2024. So it won a significant percentage of the races. Other little tricks and points that are kind of difficult to see, and it's nice to be able to get up close. You've got the front wing here, leads through, and where the air is being directed around the wheel, if I just get the camera right down here, you can see we've got this kind of ducting that filters the air around the wheel. The wheels, the tyres, are obviously not aerodynamically efficient, and so we're guiding the air around there. Other significant things, I move the camera down here, there is no barge boards. There's none of these, all these little aero gizmos. It was really 1994 that we started to see the development of those barge boards. And down into the Coke bottle area of the car here, again, really, really simplistic. Lovely little air intake, the ducting for the brake duct there, a little bit more simplistic. The other thing you notice is the brake line is actually mounted on the outside of the rear wishbone there. Something you certainly don't see in current Formula 1 cars. Little air channel just here, guiding down to a diffuser that looks very different. Certainly if you've seen that footage of the Jordan 191, the car from that competed a year before this car, the rear diffuser does look a little bit different. You know, that's the development of technology and the way things change. The other thing that stands out to me here is you've got these little hooks here. Now, this is for the rear jack for the pit stop, and I imagine that would have been quite tricky to get your rear jack in to hook there to lift the car up. Certainly today, for the rear crash structure, we have kind of just like a cup that basically sits on the back of the car and lifts the car up, makes it a little bit easier for the rear jackman. I imagine this would have been quite a challenging job. The engine in this car, the fabulous Renault, the V10, would have just, well, it did make absolutely stunning noise. And for those of you that have seen any of the footage, or even at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone in 2022, Sebastian Vettel took one of these out using synthetic fuel. It's the one that he bought. He bought one of these. This is not the car he bought. but he ran one of these on synthetic fuel, and it didn't take away any of the glorious engine noise that the F1 cars used to make. If I take the camera in the cockpit, because I know people always like to be able to see inside the cockpit, we've got a very simplistic seatbelt setup here. No head and neck support, very, very low side. You could even see the driver's shoulders sitting out here. You've got the seat that sits in here, and then you've got the steering wheel and the dials just in here. You can see this steering wheel is the genuine one. It's got the semi-automatic gearbox paddles at the back. You've also got very simplistic buttons, one for the radio and one for drinks. And then if I just move the camera around here, sorry, it's a little bit wobbly there. You've got the FIA scrutineering plate here. You've got a couple more of the dials and things just on the outside there. It would have been quite tricky for the driver to reach in and grab those, especially at speed going over bumps. But when you consider nowadays everything's on the steering wheel, we've also got the official chassis plate on the car there as well. And we can see this is chassis number 7. And this was actually one that was used as a test vehicle for many of the times. It didn't race very much, this one, but it was used as a test vehicle, this specific car. Other significant things you can see on the car, we've got the picture of the camel on the side. For those of you that aren't aware, this is a part of the cigarette sponsorship. Now, in certain countries, and Silverstone, Britain was one of those, you weren't allowed to have the words camel, or for other companies such as Marlboro, you weren't allowed to have the cigarette brand name, so they used symbols instead. And that was quite a common way round the cigarette advertising laws at the time. Lovely little ducting on here, and what's interesting is I've seen a number of there are a couple of these chassis out and about and been on display, and I've not seen others with the plastic plastic aero deflector to deflect the air around the driver. These don't tend to be on a lot of them. I imagine over the years when these cars have got moved around, it's the sort of thing that might easily get broken and lost. Also, a couple of them I've seen on display in different areas haven't actually had the aerial there, which provides data for the active suspension setup. A number of them don't have that, so it's great to see that on this car here. It's an absolute honour to be this close to this car and spend time with these kind of cars. If you're liking this content, please grab us a like and grab a subscribe. Secondly, if you've got any questions, please come back to us. I really do enjoy, as I'm sure many of you would, the opportunity to get close to these type of cars. I really enjoy talking about them, introducing them to people, particularly for those who are, as we talked about in some of the previews, some of our kind of Netflix Drive to Survive generation who maybe not are not as familiar with these older Formula One cars. It's an absolute honour. So please grab a like, grab a subscribe, but also fire off any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer.